Are we live? Are we live? It didn't give me no countdown. Welcome to the OST. Hey, welcome to the OST, the Opinionated Sports Talk Show with your boy Brian. Debate, dispute, controversy. How's everybody doing tonight on this beautiful Monday? You know, what happened to August, man? August just went by so quick. I don't know what to say, but tweet at me at your boy Brian. Oh man, my phone's going off. Hold on 1 second, people, especially on the podcast side. Sorry, you know I got to do this. I'm trying to invite people to my show and do that stuff, but just hang in there. We got a lot of stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about some college football. We're going to talk some football, of course. We're going to talk a lot of stuff. Just hang in there 1 second. What's going on, James? Just give me 1 second as I got to do this sharing, that thing I do on Facebook. I don't know. I don't see it on my phone, though. Usually it's on my phone right here. So, as I'm looking for it on my phone here, because I gotta share it to the groups, and for some reason it's not popping up here. Just my Twitter's going crazy. I'm gonna talk about some Buster Posey, what's going on with the Giants and him. That guy's gone for a while. I'm gonna talk about some college football, like I said. I'm gonna make some predictions and who I think is gonna be this year's team. Why isn't it on my phone? I don't get what's happening here. And then I'm going to talk, what else I got on the agenda here? I'm talking about Julius Thomas, who Denver Broncos tight end. He's going to retire from football. I'll tell you why he's retiring. But I'm just trying to get this thing on the groups because, you know, that's where a lot of listeners, a lot of sports groups listen in at. But for some reason, it's just not showing up on my phone. Really odd. But follow it. We are now on Spotify. The podcast is on Spotify and iHeartRadio. I'm glad to be on Spotify. Spotify is a big outlet for us. Be getting a lot more listeners and stuff. So as I'm still searching here, let me do some shout outs to the groups while I don't know what is taking so long with this thing. It's crazy. You know how technologies always have something going on with my videos and stuff. Every week, man. Every week I have something wrong with technical difficulties. It's just not showing up on my phone. There's my profile. Let me show you guys on the side. And it doesn't show my video. It don't show the live feed. So, let me get shout outs real quick here. Shout out to... Oh, my phone's on now. Shout out to 365 Sports, all sports domination, all we talk is sports, all sports all day, all sports discussion. Oh, here we go. Share the group. Here we go. Hold on. Dun dun dun. Man, this is like a dead air sound. I need to hire someone to come help me do this, man, because it's kind of hard to do this and talk and do the podcast thing and all that stuff here. Okay, I think I'm good. Let me continue. All sports all day, all sports discussion, anything sports, a league of its own, inside sports, sources, hard hit entertainment, Mac Salt Chamber, the National F-Bomb, I love that name, National Sports, Repio Team Talk Trash, Real NBA, NFL Talk, Sports Cave, the Sports Mayhem, Sports Talk 365, the Sports Jungle, and the new one, I want to say thanks, a special shout out to the Sports Locker Room. Thank you guys for letting me do this in your show. I always start off slow. I always have technical difficulties, something happening here, something happening there, but we're good to go. My Twitter doesn't stop. I have to turn my phone off. Let's put my phone down there. Join me on Facebook Live if you're listening on the podcast side. Like I said, we are on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts. In any podcasting app, you can always find these shows there. Let me make sure we're good on the. There we go. We live on Spreaker.com/OST show. So, let me start with a little of the Bay Area baseball team here. We got the San Francisco Giants. Now, we know they won 3 World Series. They were really on a roll. But then they seem to have kind of lost their mojo. They've kind of gone downhill. And I'm a Giants fan. I have it tatted on my arm. I'm born and raised San Francisco. I've always been a Giants fan. And I've said it before that the 2010 Giants team was pretty much a lucky World Series. If you ever see the 2010 World Series team, look at the roster and tell me how good they are. Shots to San Francisco High Bearcats JV football. Shout out to them, fellas. It's just, I really feel like with all the digression, the way they've been slipping in the ranking, they didn't make the playoffs. And when the Cubs won the World Series a few years ago, they were in the playoffs, and ever since then, they haven't even really been a good team. They're not even playing 500 ball. They're 65 and 67 right now. They're in 4th place. They're 8 games out of 1st place. Now they got even the worst news that could happen. I know they have a lot of injuries. Johnny Cueto was hurt. Bumgarner was hurt at the beginning of the season. I think it's time for Pence to retire or move on. Getting McCutchen, on paper, looked like a good move, but he hasn't been anything since his MVP year. That's the MO of the Giants. They always get these players that had 1 or 2 good years, that had really good years, but they always get these players that kind of aging, like they did with what's his name as well, who's been on the disabled list too, is good old the third baseman guy. I can't think of his name. Why can't I think of his name? The guy that came from Tampa Bay. You guys know who I'm talking about. But the worst news that they just got is Buster Posey. Buster Posey is now going to have hip surgery. The season-ending hip surgery. He's going to be out 6 to 8 months. He's going to miss all the spring training next year. And here's the question. Being a catcher, where you're constantly in the squat, you're constantly moving, your body is getting banged around back there every play. Is he going to come back to the level of play that we've gotten accustomed to, that we know that he can do here, that we've gotten used to here? So that's right. Julius Randle does play for the Dolphins. My mistake. I am just kind of all over the place lately, man. I don't know what is going on here. I'm just trying to get my phone in order, try to talk to cameras. But Buster Posey's gone. He's been hurt all season long. His play hasn't been. I mean, it hasn't been bad, but he's only, Posey's hitting 284. He has only 5 home runs, 41 RBIs. He has not hit a home run in 103 at bats. And that's probably, I believe that's his 3rd longest or 2nd longest streak without hitting a home run. I think his last one they said was in the middle of June. So this is time for the Giants to rebuild. I really think that everybody should go, or everyone should pretty much be on the market. It should be on the block, I should say. And it's time for the Giants to move on. I also feel that as much as I like Bruce Bochy and thank him for what he did, I think it's time for that guy just to move on. I think it's time to get new blood. It's time to move on, get a new head coach. I still believe, I like Wotus, the bench coach who's been with the Giants forever. I think he should be a head coach somewhere. I think it's time for them to make a change. I've said this many times, and now's the time to do it. You got Buster Posey coming back in 8 months, who's probably not going to be 100% at that time, especially in the catcher position. Is he going to? It's a physical position. It's hip surgery he's having. I think that it's time to move on from good old Bruce Bochy and time to rebuild the Giants. I pretty much would put everybody on the block. Bumgarner, I would put Buster Posey. I mean, maybe lock up Posey and Bumgarner, or maybe Crawford. Those are your 3 core that you would keep. But Brandon Belt, Hunter Pence needs to retire or move on. McCutchen, Longoria, that's the guy I was thinking of. I could not think of his name. Longoria, I think it's time for these guys to rebuild, and it's time for the Giants to make a splash. they haven't made a signing. If you think about all the signings that they've done at the trade deadline, at the free agency winter meetings, and the baseball winter meetings, and during free agency, they don't do anything. The last big player they've ever signed was Barry Bonds. If you think about the big player that they signed was Barry Bonds. Yeah, we got Carlos Beltran at the end of his career. I can't even think off the top of my head who they've signed. That is Andrew McCutchen, Longoria. Yes, those guys were good at one time, but so was Aubrey Huffman. And they went and got Ryan Garco at one time, and Sinjo, and all these players that really didn't contribute to the team. They won the World Series with Ross and Aaron Rowan and Pat Burrells. But those guys, 2010 team was really lucky. I feel that. I know a lot of people say you can't win. Winning champions, the best team doesn't always win championships. Let me remind you, timely hitting, good pitching, and defense in baseball wins the World Series. That's what I feel. I still can't find it on my Facebook. That's so weird. So I think it's rebuilding time. They haven't done anything in the last few years. They've really digressed in play. It's time to get new blood in there and move on. And Buster Posey, man, it's going to be interesting when he comes back. A hip surgery. I know he's very young. His body could probably heal a lot faster than someone older. But playing catcher, believe me, I caught for many years of my life, and it's very, very tough. Very tough on the legs, very tough on the knees, very tough on the back. It's stressful. You're the only one that wears gear on the field. You're the position player that can see the whole field without turning its head in any direction. You're the captain of the field, of the team normally, and it's very tough. So it's going to be interesting how he comes back there. So we'll see what happens when he comes back in 8 months. I'm going to rant a little bit here before I get into everything, before I talk about Julius Thomas and Odell Beckham being the highest paid wide receiver in the game now. Last week, I talked about, it seems like every week, on every sports show, of course, their national anthem, kneeling, and all this stuff. And it's mixed emotions. I said it on Facebook to one of my friends. I said, it's a touchy situation. It's like the Bible. It's like religion. It's like people will interpret it what is going on in different ways. They'll interpret it the Bible in certain ways, what it said. So that's why there's so many different religions, so many different beliefs, because people read the Bible, interpret it in different ways. Same thing's happening with the Colin Kaepernick thing and the kneeling in the NFL, and they're interpreting it their own ways, and that's fine. That's what makes this country great is the freedom that we have in this country to express our opinions, express our feelings, and all kinds of stuff like that. Where the protesting is all that. I'm gonna talk about the Cowboys in a minute, Eric. They looked really bad last night. They did that. They don't have no depth on that team on Dallas Cowboys. I'm nervous if I were a Dallas fan right now. But anyway, I mentioned Alex Smith, and someone made a comment on Twitter and Facebook, and they were talking about Alex Smith's career is better than Colin Kaepernick's. Yeah, maybe it has. He's played longer. He's been more successful and all that stuff. But I'm just going to say this: Colin Kaepernick, to me, was never really given a fair shot when his play started to digress. People make excuses for Alex Smith his first 6 seasons with the 49ers. Oh, different head coach, he had no offensive line, different offensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. Just made excuses, but they weren't willing to make excuse for Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, he was going through some stuff. He lost his head coach. He had to deal with the new head coach and Chip Kelly and JT, whatever his name is, Tuisola, whatever his name is. So he was going through it too, but no one made excuses for that. So what I did to back up my theory that Kaepernick would succeed in the NFL, and I liked Cap better than Alex Smith, I've never been an Alex Smith fan, is I compared the first 6 seasons in the NFL. Now I know you're going to say, I know you Smith fans are going to say, oh, that's not fair. That's not fair at all because Smith had different offensive coordinators and Smith had different head coaches and blah, blah, blah. Those are just excuses. Here's my rebuttal to those excuses. First of all, if you have raw talent, if you are a good quarterback, like Peyton Manning was, like Drew Brees was, like Phillip Rivers is, and all these great quarterbacks, Tom Brady, if you have talent and you're on a bad team, your team will still lose because it's a team effort, right? You're going to lose. But your play will shine. Your play will be good. Alex Smith never did any of that. He had 16 interceptions, 1 touchdown his first starting season in San Francisco. When he was drafted, when they said, the number 1 pick in the San Francisco 49ers draft, Alex Smith out of Utah, first thing I said was, bad move. Bad move. Bad move. He is a system quarterback. And if you don't know what a system quarterback is someone that only will succeed in a system that's designed for them. A system that is mainly caters to their skill set. Alex Smith can't throw the ball down. He doesn't throw the deep ball. He's not very accurate. He doesn't have a strong arm when he throws a deep ball. So what did they do? What did Harbaugh did in his one season? He played good. And what did they do in Kansas City for him? They make it very simple offense. Throws to the back, so that the tight end, dink and dunk. He led the NFL in pass attempts in 5 yards and under. He's been leading the NFL in that category for the last 4 or 5 years. So the system quarterback, and then don't get me wrong, he's a very good athlete. He's a smart. He has a high football IQ, but he was given excuses and a chance after chance after chance after chance. And when Kaepernick failed, no chance was given. No. He goes to the Super Bowl, NFC Championships, goes 8-8. San Francisco fans already cut his head off. So he never got the chance that he got. So what I did is I looked up the stats for the first 6 years of Kaepernick's career and Alex Smith's career. Okay. Kaepernick played 69 games. Alex Smith played 70 games. The completion percentage for Kaepernick is 59.8%. Alex Smith is 58%. Pretty much even there, right? Touchdowns. Kaepernick threw 72 touchdowns, and Alex Smith threw 68 touchdowns. 30 interceptions for Kaepernick, while Smith threw 58 touchdowns. Now, Alex Smith threw for 12,543 yards, while Kaepernick only threw for 12,271. Quarterback rating, 88.9 for Kaepernick, 76.4 for Alex Smith. As you can see, Kaepernick had those are even the years that he digressed. Those are even years he didn't play very well. His numbers were exactly comparable or not better than Alex Smith. So I just want to get on that. I just wanted to rant about that. People know how I feel about Alex Smith. I'm not a big Alex Smith fan. He's a good quarterback. He's good. There's different tiers of quarterback. There's your elite, great quarterback, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Those are the elite guys. Then you got your very good quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers. Then you got your good quarterbacks, and that's where majority of the people come. Ask yourself this. If you're a Washington Redskins fan, Kansas City fan, or if you're a 49er fan, how many quarterbacks in the NFL would you take over Alex Smith at that time? You think the Giants are going to go 11-5 with Saquon Barkley? I have to say to that is, Dan, is it all hinges on Eli's play. Eli's getting up there in age. He's very inconsistent. You don't know what he's going to do. He'll throw 34 touchdowns one year with 20 interceptions, and then the next, who knows what he does the next year. He'll throw, 15 touchdowns with 35 interceptions. He's inconsistent. But let me get back on track here. Julius Thomas, I found this article very interesting. All this talk about CTE and the billions of dollars that they're forking over on these lawsuits and all that stuff. The tight end for the Miami Dolphins. I got it correct. I said he was with the Denver Broncos, which he was, but he's now in Miami, or was, because he's retiring. Julius Thomas is hanging up his cleats and he's retiring for professional football, and he's going after his Ph.D. in psychology. He is pursuing he will focus his degree on the pursuit of effects. Let me read this. Investigating the effects of contact sports on brain trauma and neural behavior performance. He wants to research and identify early warning signs of the brain disease. I think it's I think it's great. I think it's a good move. He's not just stepping away because he's scared. He's not stepping away because his play's not great. He's not stepping away for any other reason but to give back to the NFL. He's doing more for the NFL. He's going to do more for the NFL probably now than he did as a tight end. He only had a couple good years, and that was because he had Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning made him better. Then his play digressed, went to Miami, and he hasn't done much over there in Miami anyway. So I found that very noble, very humbling. He's given up millions of dollars and playing professional sports to go pursue his Ph.D. and get his psychology and he wants to research CTE, which is mainly big in the NFL. I think that's a great thing. I think it's he's going to give back more to the NFL than he did playing in the NFL. So, got a comment on Facebook. Dan says Eli to Odell. New York Giants will go 11-5 with new running back Barkley. Now I like Saquon Barkley. I think he's a great running back. I think he's going to be probably one of the better ones. And the Giants did make a lot of moves this offseason. They bolstered the offensive line. They just signed Odell to the highest to a contract extension. He's going to be the highest paid wide receiver in the game, which I'll talk about in a minute. But they still have a problem, and that's Eli Manning. How good is Eli? Well, people. I talked about this last week. People judge players' performance or their greatness or their success or how good they are on different variables. I judge them on how they play on the field. How many yards they throw, how many interceptions, touchdowns, completion percentage, blah, 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 blah. I don't even really count wins. I definitely don't count championships. Some people say, Eli's going to the Hall of Fame because he beat Tom Brady twice. No, the New York Giants beat the Patriots twice. He didn't beat them by themselves. But anyway, I don't think Eli he's in the tiers of quarterbacks that's good. He's between the good and very good tier. He shines it sometimes, and then he goes very dim, very dark. He's very inconsistent. One game, he'll go a 20 for 27 for 310 yards with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then he'll play the next game and he'll go 11 for 30, 4 picks, no touchdowns. Very consistent, very unreliable. So the Giants' season hinges on how he plays this year, how Eli Manning plays. Is he going to be the Eli Manning that people have known or like, or is it the Eli Manning of the past where he just doesn't perform at a level of being an NFL quarterback? And I agree that it gives a 3-man threat. It's like Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Gurley. You got the 3 in Miami. I mean, not Miami, in Los Angeles. You got running back Gurley, you got Jared Goff, and now you got the wide receiver that they just signed, Brandon Cooks. So you got those 3 components, and that's what the Giants have. They have the running game now. They have the established quarterback, and they just signed Odell Beckham to an extension, which makes him the highest paid wide receiver. He has agreed to a 5-year extension with the New York Giants that makes him the highest paid wide receiver in the game. Now, people know how I feel about wide receivers. I think wide receivers are problematic. They're divish. They're divas. They're diva-esque. They're flamboyant. It's a look-at-me position. Look how fast I am. Look at the hands look at the catch I made. Look at the moves I made. It's not a grind 'em kind of position like football player, like the linemen and the running backs and the linebackers. It's just where they're always grinding it out in the middle of the field. These guys are on the outside, just running out, So, Odell Beckham will receive the maximum $95 million over the course of the deal with a $65 million guarantee money. Wow. That passes Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown, which is $17 million a year, and beats Tampa Bay's wide receiver Mike Evans, $55 million in total guarantee money. He has become under a microscope now. When you get paid this kind of money, especially when someone that didn't play last year was hurt, and you still get that kind of money, there's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of focus on you. If he doesn't succeed up to any kind of level, we'll just hope that, New York Giants fans, let's hope this doesn't turn into a Dez Bryant situation. Let's hope it doesn't turn into a Dez Bryant. Odell Beckham's 25 years old. He has had at least 90 catches for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns in each of his first 3 NFL seasons. He's the quickest to 200 receptions and 3,000 yards in NFL history. Impressive numbers. But I'm just not a fan of wide receivers. I think they're great. They're a good asset. They're like closers in baseball to me. They get a little more notoriety than they should, especially in football. Football, they're the only sport where your face is covered, and they have to make a name for themselves to market themselves by being flamboyant. And Odell's hair is very well known, and it's just to pay a player that 100% depends on his quarterback. The wide receiver position 100% depends on the quarterback. If he gets thrown the ball, that's all that matters to him. That's all that matters to a wide receiver. Doesn't matter how he blocks. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to play any other position. He doesn't have to do kick return, punt return, even though some wide receiver and slot receivers do. Odell Beckham ain't going to be doing that, especially this kind of money. I am all for players getting paid. Get paid, get your money. But I'm just not a big fan of wide receivers getting this money. It's like closers getting paid in all this notoriety. When you think about closers, if you look at the analytics of closers, it's just not that. It's not that interesting. It's like Tom Brady's been winning Super Bowls with none of these no big name wide receivers. Julius Edelman, Danny and I can't say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He had Randy Moss, and they didn't win. So wide receiver position is just a flashy diva. Look at me. I'm gonna give you an attitude kind of position, and if you think about all the receivers, all the great receivers in the game right now, look at them all. From Dez Bryant, who doesn't even have a team anymore, flashy attitude diva. You got Antonio Brown, flashy diva attitude. Did a Facebook Live or something in his own locker room with his teammates, talking trash about another team. So you look at these receivers; they're the ones that are always. That's just my thought on wide receivers, and paying them this much money is pretty insane. So, the preseason's here. I'm not a fan of the preseason either. I don't know. All these players are getting hurt, and preseason should be cut down to 2 games. I don't think any stars, anyone that's a guaranteed roster, a guaranteed spot on the roster, these big names, Tom Brady, if you're a Dallas fan, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, those guys should not play in the preseason. All you're doing is risking injury. You can get as much reps and practice as you need. Scrimmages at practice all week long. You don't need these preseason games. Preseason games are strictly for TV to make money. Exactly right, Ray. That's what I'm saying. Most receivers are what do you call them? Prima donnas? Yeah, they're prima donnas. They're divas. They have attitudes and all that stuff. They just look at me and look how fast I can run, and look at me do this dance in the end zone. It's just it's not like the olden days. Art Monk, Jerry Rice. They just did their job and they went about it. Now it's an era of social media. It's an era of how much can I get. It's about look at what kind of sponsorships can I get, what kind of commercials can I do. It's just that's just how it is nowadays. So yeah, that's what he gets paid for. I'm all about players getting paid. I'm not hating on the contract Odell got. Let him get his contract. Get your money. Get your money. I have no problem with paying that kind of money to any of these players because first of all, he got the highest, most of his money guaranteed. Now, football contracts are not guaranteed. You get hurt, you have to play a certain amount of snaps. All this stuff that is in a football contract anyway. So get your money, and once your play starts to digress, look what happened to players when their career, the end of their career. How these owners just get rid of them anyway. So get your money. I'm not hating on it, but that's all good. So preseason. Let me get back to preseason. I was reading a comment here on Facebook, so I got sidetracked. Preseason is useless. It really is. College doesn't do it. CFL don't do it. There's no need for preseason football. You're just risking injury. You're risking your stars. I wouldn't play any of my stars if I owned a team or head coach. People that are on the team that are going to make your roster, that are your franchise quarterbacks or wide receivers or running backs or defensive linemen, offensive line, don't play them. Don't play them. It's only for TV. It's for ratings to get that money. That's all it's about. And I was watching the preseason game last night of the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. Wow. I was watching the Cowboys, and I have a lot of friends that are Cowboy fans, and they always tell I have nothing good to say about Dallas. Well, you got a talented young quarterback, really good quarterback, I should say, and a really good running back. I think their success has been based on the team built around them. The offensive line is really solid. So I just think this Dallas team, I already said in my pregame, they're not going to make the playoffs. I don't think Dallas is going to make the playoffs. I think that division got better with the Eagles coming, with Carson Wentz coming back, of course, Super Bowl champions coming back stronger than they did last year. You got the Giants getting better, like I said, with Saquon Barkley and additions they made on the offensive line. I just don't see Washington. I don't think I think they'll be better in Washington. But what I saw yesterday with the 8 turnovers and none, they had 8 turnovers and got 0 back, or was it 7? I don't know, 8 or 7. But either way, 8 or 7's a lot. So what I saw with the Dallas Cowboys, Eric and Greg and my Dallas fans, is they have no depth. I know you're going to say, oh, those turnovers were by the second team. Dak and them didn't even play. You're absolutely right. You're right. Dak, it wasn't Dak turned the ball over. It wasn't Ezekiel Elliott turned over. It wasn't Cole Beasley turned over. But that is your team. And that is your depth of the team. So knock on wood for your Dallas fans that Dak doesn't get hurt, Ezekiel doesn't get hurt, and your first squad doesn't get hurt. Because you look at the depth of the team, and these guys come in, you have no shot. You have no shot of it. From what I saw last night, and the depth that they have on that team, that depth chart is not very deep. If those guys go down or something happens, and these guys because not only let me rewind a little bit. Dallas, the second team, but that was also Arizona's second team. It wasn't like they were playing their first team. They were playing Arizona's second team as well. The B squad. B team, go. Anyway, some wrestling stuff. But, so I don't think they're going to, unless they make some moves or get some improvements somewhere, They lack in the depth chart, and that's going to hurt them going forward this season. And with the Giants getting better and Carson Wentz coming back and Eagles being the team to beat in the NFC East. You got good old Alex Smith though in Washington, right? I'm looking at my Twitter, see if anyone's talking smack. I always talk smack on Twitter. Yes, Dallas does suck. Well, I wouldn't say Dallas sucks. I will say Dallas. They're a good team, but they're not good enough to make the playoffs. The NFC wild card teams are going to come either. They're going to come from Atlanta. They're going to come from Atlanta's going to win. I think the Saints will win that division. I think the Saints are an underrated team. When Drew Brees has a defense, he's phenomenal. I think Drew Brees should definitely be in the conversation of GOAT quarterbacks, minus champions. Don't talk championships to me about being GOATs. That's the most ridiculous thing. But you look at Drew Brees' numbers, you'll see why I say he should be in the conversation of GOAT quarterback. But so I think the division, if Cam Newton could have a good season, I'm not a big Cam fan. I think the guy's overrated. But I think Carolina, Atlanta, those are going to be your wild card teams coming from that division. It's not going to come out of the East. And if it does, it's not going to be Dallas. College football, man. Love me some college football. The big news in college football right now is Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer has been placed on administrative leave, which means pretty much he just got suspended right before he could get fired. No, I disagree. I'm reading a Facebook post here. Breeze came a long way too. Even if championships come up, at least he has one to use. I don't have my glasses, so it's hard for me to read that. Ohio State, Urban Meyer has been suspended. I believe 4 games. I'm sorry, administrative leave. But when you make that much money and you get paid while you're on administrative, it's a vacation. And how does that going to affect Ohio? I think it's going to affect Ohio State very, very, very much. I think Ohio State, when I went through, did my due diligence on my college predictions, I didn't see anybody picking Ohio to do anything this year. They're always a strong team. They're definitely in a tough conference, but I just don't see them being the team to beat this year. I'm gonna talk about college football right now. Y'all ready for college football? I'm gonna tell you some. I'm gonna look at my crystal ball. Crystal ball says that I'm gonna tell you the teams that I think are gonna be a disappointment, and the teams I think are gonna see it. And who's gonna be in that? And the national champion just played right here in San Francisco. Right here in San Francisco this year. I got to get tickets. Someone send me tickets. So, I think the team to beat, obviously, who will win the national championship, I don't know who's going to win, but I'll tell you, who I think is going to win is Clemson. I think Clemson this year, their roster is absolutely stacked. They're going to get better play at the quarterback position this year than they did last year because Kelly Bryant has been named the starting quarterback. He's gonna improve, I think. Then they got that true freshman Trevor Lawrence, who could win that job at some time if Kelly Bryant doesn't play very well the first few years. And college football is so unforgiving too. College football, they got to make a move quick. I don't think the Uties are going to make championships, buddy. I don't think the Uties always have a good defense, but they're not going to make championships. But college football is so unforgiving. You have 2 losses early in the season, or you lose to a big team, or not. Let me rewind. If you lose to a mediocre team or a team not good, you don't get the rankings that you deserve. A few years ago, you will see we're the hottest team at the end of the season. They won like 9 straight games. They won their bowl game, but they lost 2 or 3 games earlier in the season when they struggled, and they didn't even get a bid in for the playoffs. I think the playoffs should definitely be expanded. I think the playoffs in college football should be 8 teams. There's too many teams that they're always questioning on the cusp, on the bubble. Should they get in? Should they not? This way, 8 teams, best records, get in. Hands down, just do it like the NFL. All this ranking, I like the rankings. I like the way they rank teams. They do it in all sports now. But I just think that when it comes to this committee who gets in the playoffs, who doesn't, there's too much factors. Just go by who has the best records. You have the best record. I know college football, there's so many teams. There's like hundreds and hundreds of teams. But that's why there's so many bowl games. But for the playoffs, you go to ACC, you go to the Pac-12, you get the best record teams in there, and you go into it. So I think Clemson is going to be the team to beat this year. Clemson is the best team in college football this year, like I just said. Either way, even if it's Trevor Lawrence or Kelly Bryant at the quarterback position, that D-line is going to be – that defensive line at Clemson is hands down the best defensive line in college football right now. They have the best defensive line. 3 starters from last year did not go into the draft when they could have, and they stayed. They had, what did I say, the Tigers tied for the National League in sacks with 46 last year. I just think Clemson is going to be I know Roll Tide and all your Bama fans and all this stuff are saying, what about Bama? What about Alabama? They're having problems at the quarterback position right now. They lost a lot of key players on that defense, even though I think their defense is still going to be one of the stronger sides of the ball for them. But I just don't think that Clemson's defensive line and the young quarterback they have and the offense that they run, it's going to be their year. I think Alabama. I'm not saying Alabama won't be in the playoffs. Alabama should be in the playoffs. They'll probably be there again this year. But I just think it's Clemson's year. I'll bet you Clemson don't win. I'll go with Alabama. It's an easy bet. It's an easy bet Alabama win. I don't think they're going to win it this year. I think it's Clemson's year this year. Look, James, I see what you're saying when you talk about the college playoffs, and you can't go with the best records because there's so many teams and different conferences. Some conferences are obviously stronger than others, and But if you want to clear cut who gets in, you cannot say one team gets in, because college football is so unforgiving. Like I said, if you struggle early in the season, let's say the first 5 games you're 3-5, or you're 4-2 at one point, or even if you're 1-2, and all of a sudden you go on a hot streak, they're going to say, oh, well, earlier in the season, he lost against a team that's not ranked. They got blown out by Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, whoever it may be, and that affects the playoffs, your chance for even like I just said earlier about the San Francisco Giants. It's not always about the best team doesn't always win. It's all about momentum, getting hot in football. Scoring, timely scoring, and defense, and turnovers, and all this stuff is what wins football games. If you start off slow, build the momentum, win 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in the end of the season, you're the hottest team in college football, but you don't get a playoffs because earlier in the season you lost to this team, you lost to that team. It just, you got to figure out, like, okay, let's say Alabama. Let's not use Alabama as a reference. Let's say that Ohio State has a record of
I don't know, 11-2. I'm just throwing some numbers out there. And you do the calculation. I know there's more games and less games than 13 games. Let's say they're 10-2. Penn State's 10-2. Why? It's hard. How are you going to pick those two teams? Oh, you go by who they beat earlier in the season, how much they destroyed someone or an unranked team, and how the strength of their schedule is. You just expand the playoffs. You put eight teams instead of 4 in the playoffs. The first 2 teams get byes like in the NFL and all the other sports where they get bye weeks and all that stuff. There's no controversy. There's no worry about it. You put Penn State and you put Ohio State in the playoffs. They're both 11-2. You put them in the playoffs. Now, if they're let's say Ohio State is 11-2 and Michigan is 12-3. How do you figure the difference in that? The one with the better record. If one team has one less, it's a long process in college football. What makes it difficult is there's just so many teams in college football. There's just so many teams. I just think they should expand the playoffs. That would clear up so much of this. Who's in, who's not? Are they on the bubble? Why aren't they getting? Like a few years ago, Washington got in over USC. Like I said, I don't even know why Washington got it. Oh, because they beat Colorado, who was a ranked team, and they destroyed them at one point. It's just too many variables in reasoning why they didn't get in and why they did get in. If you just have 2 teams in the same conference that have one has one more win than the other, you put that team in because their record is better. Oh, but they lost to Alabama and the other team beat Alabama. How do you figure it? It's just too many variables there. I think TCU could be a very good team this year. I think TCU might have a chance to actually make the playoffs. But anyway, I still think Clemson's this year. I think it's Clemson's year. Easy bets Alabama, but I think Clemson's going to do that front defensive line is the best in the NFL. It's just too good. They got that. Their offensive line is solid over at Clemson with the left tackle Hyatt and the center Justin. I'm going to try to say his name. Facility Falcinelli. Falcinelli. Screw education. We want football. Football is education, man. I love college football. And also Clemson's schedule, they have probably the easiest path to the playoffs, the championship there, which I said is being played here in San Francisco. I want them. I got to get tickets. Never been to a college football game. Never been to a college football game. Can you believe that? Never been to a college football game. If you continue to expand the season, you continue to interrupt the education. I agree with that. I'm not saying expand the season. I'm saying, well, you will expand the season if you expand the playoffs. But it comes to getting it right. It's still the BCS, where the BCS, the way they used to do the rankings and who got into the chain, they just picked it, was completely wrong. They fixed it a little bit with the playoffs. They fixed it with they got a little better with the playoffs, but now 4 teams out of how many teams? How many teams have had? Penn State played very well last year. Didn't get in. Why not? Well, because of this, and this team did better, and this team did beat a ranked team. They lost to a non-ranked team. It's just too much confusion. And I agree. In college football, education should come first. I 100% agree with that one. That's what they're there for. But we all know that the college system and the head coaches and the system, these great players and all these scholarships, it all hinges. It all depends on the booster clubs for the football team, for the basketball team, for the baseball team. So if you expand it, you're making more money, right? And I really don't see it hurting that much. And I'm a strong believer in this. Let me just say this. If the starting quarterback for Clemson is failing a class, and the teacher says he's failing a class, he's not going to play, you're telling me that Urban Meyer, who's in the hot seat right now, Harbaugh over Michigan, Nick Saban, winning as head coach right now in college football, Danny Swebo, these guys aren't going to go talk to the dean, or not going to go talk to the organization or the whatever they're called, committee, to get these guys to play. I think these athletes that bring in a lot of money, first of all, that's a whole different show. I still think they should get some sort of money somewhere. Yeah, they pay for their education, but what they're doing is they're the reason why they're the reason why the school has this great campus and all the systems and pays the professor's salary and all that stuff. But it's all national TV. It's not just boosters, it's national TV. You know, during the NBA, not the NBA, March Madness, just a month, 2 months long, the colleges pull in over $1 billion in revenue. $1 billion in revenue. I want you to think about that. Just in 3 months, let's give them 3 months of March Madness, and they pull in over $1 billion. These players don't see a dime of it, but they sell their name, they sell their jerseys, they're on TV. They got these contracts with CBS and NBC and ESPN and all that stuff, whoever they may be, with Fox Sports, the Pac-12 network. They have their own network. The ACC got their own network. They all got their own network. And these kids are not allowed any of this. That's a whole different show. I'm getting sidetracked here. Let's get back to what I was talking about. So I think Clemson. Clemson's a team to beat this year. The easy route would be Alabama, and then if they lost, you could say, well, can't win it every year, right? I'm going with Clemson this year. Clemson's defense is really solid. They're improving at the quarterback position. They got a great running game. Offensive line is really, really strong about it. So, yeah, exactly. They make money off the Little League World Series, too. But you're comparing things that, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? We can sit here all night debating this, but, college football, Little League World Series doesn't bring in anything what college football brings in. Nothing. And the Little League World Series is a non-profit organization. They do that money that ESPN gives to the Little League World Series, they're building fields, I'm assuming. They're doing something right for these kids. I sure hope they are. ESPN's making a lot of money off Little League World Series, but nowhere near college basketball, college football. College baseball is not as popular as basketball and football in college, but yeah, you're 100% right. But these kids are underage. They're not 18 years old. So you can't pay them. If they're child actor makes $3 million on the parents get it. Now I'm not saying the Little League parents should get paid, but they're doing something for an organization, the Little League Baseball Foundation. They're getting something. They can't just make money off them for free. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. I will take you on anytime. Clemson may not even beat. I just like Clemson this year. Their defense is solid. They got a good running game, offensive line. Their quarterback position will improve. And I think Clemson. I know it's, like I said before, it's very hard to win back-to-back champions, back-to-back, keep going. In Alabama, it's a safe route. You can sit there and say, I'm going to Alabama. Yeah, and if they don't win, you can say, well, they can't win it every year, right? I'm going Clemson. The biggest disappointment team this year, I think, I'm gonna have to say USC. There's too much going on in USC that's unknown. They just lost their quarterback, of course, Sam Darnold. They got a true freshman quarterback at JT Daniels, who, to me, doesn't seem to have what it takes right now to be a USC quarterback. Now, not just a college quarterback, I'm saying USC quarterback. So, a USC quarterback, coastal team, big market, big name. I just see USC not being a very good team this year. There's too many questions around that team right now. I think another disappointing team this year is going to be West Virginia. Now they got Will Grier, who Heisman candidate, has a very good chance of winning Heisman, but that's pretty much all they got. They lost what? The defense lose 5 starters from a unit that was ranked 106th in the college last year in yards per game allowed, and they've lost 5 starters from that defense. Like I said, defense is a lot stronger. I think Ohio State's going to be a disappointment too. I said that earlier because it's just they're not. Michigan too. I know you're a Michigan fan and you got your season tickets there, Jeff, but Michigan State has to play Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State in addition to an early road against Herm Edwards, Arizona. Now, I'm not even sure about how Herm Edwards is going to do well over there in Arizona State, I say. I think Michigan State is going to be a disappointment, and I think a long shot, a surpriser, a shocker. Michigan State's not, I think they're going to be a disappointment this year. They have a tough schedule. Phone's going off. They'll be. I don't know if they'll even get 10 wins this year. I actually think. Here's what I wrote down. I actually think the Wolverines, Michigan, not Michigan State. I'm switching gears here. I actually think the Wolverines are going to beat Notre Dame on September 1st. But the expectation to Ann Arbor to place where they absolutely need to show significant improvement is in conference play. Now, I know they got Harbaugh, great coach. I know they got, I know they got a decent team, but I wouldn't expect them to be in the playoffs this year. I don't think Michigan State, I don't think is going to win 10 games. Michigan could be a shocker. So can Auburn. I think Auburn could be a shocker and not even make the playoffs or be ranked very high this season, later in the season. But I'll tell you one team I think, I'm a Pac-12 guy. I love, because I'm from the West Coast here. I think Stanford. I think Stanford's going to surprise a lot of people and kind of emerge as this good team. Bryce Love, they have Bryce Love. That guy's a phenomenal running back, one of the better running backs in college right now. Stanford has a great offensive line. They have 2 quarterbacks, but they're both very talented. In college football, they flip-flop quarterbacks and all that stuff. Their defense, if their defense plays good, and Bryce Love and that offensive line anchors down that offense, and they can put some points on the board, and our defense plays good enough to surprise people, I think Stanford will be a team to. I think TCU could be another team. Houston could be another team that could surprise a lot of people this year. So Clemson, I think, is going to be national championships. Lincoln Riley is the next Larry Coker. You mean Choker? Fast out, fizzle on Oklahoma will be your disappointment. I see that. I see what you're saying there, Jesse. Yeah, I can see. I can see Oklahoma being a little bit of a disappointment. Auburn could be a surprise disappointment. Like I said, reigning SEC champions will face a major season opening against Washington. They'll have to play Alabama. They'll have to play Georgia on the road in November. That's going to be where it's going to be tough. What do we got here? Let me check my time here, people. Give me a second. Oh, I'm already over my time. College football, starting. Love college football. I work on Saturday, so I don't get to watch a lot of it, record a lot of it, and watch that. But thank you guys for listening. This is the OST, the Opinion Sports Talk, debate, dispute, controversy. Be back next week. Tweet at me at yourboybrian25. Follow me on all the social networks and all that stuff too. But be back next week live on Facebook. If you listen to the podcast, we're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts are the easiest ways, the most popular ways to find me. But you can find me on any podcasting app. Just download the app, Podbean, anything like that, and just type in Opinion Sports Talk Show and you'll find me. Thank you guys for listening.